Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. Justin Trudeau announces resignation as Canadian Prime Minister, says he will quit the office as soon as the ruling Liberals choose a replacement for him. Another far-right-led government set to emerge in Europe as Austrian President von der Bellen asks Freedom Party's Herbert Kickl to try forming a coalition government. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan meets with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and others in Delhi. The PM says he looks forward to building upon the momentum in Indo-US ties. And The Brutalist and Emilia Perez take home the first major movie honours of Hollywood's award season at the Golden Globes. As the Biden administration prepares to hand over power to the Trump 2.0 administration, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in New Delhi to meet with his counterpart and other leaders. He also called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who said he looks forward to building upon the momentum in India-US ties. Talks between the two sides during the trip are spanning critical areas including defense, technology and regional security. Jessica Taneja reports.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Monday. In a post on microblogging site X, the Prime Minister said, "It was a pleasure to meet the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. The India-US Comprehensive Global Strategic Partnership has scaled new heights, including in the areas of technology, defense, space, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. Look forward to building upon this momentum in ties between our two democracies for the benefit of our people and global good." End quote. Earlier in the day, he met with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar as the Joe Biden administration approaches the end of its 4-year term and prepares to hand over to the Trump 2.0 administration. India's External Affairs Minister praised NSA Sullivan's personal contribution in strengthening the India-US partnership over the past 4 years. Their discussions covered a wide range of bilateral and strategic issues, underscoring the robust cooperation between the two nations. As part of his visit, NSA Sullivan also delivered a seminar at the Indian Institute of Technology, outlining the strides made under the US-India Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, also known as ISET. This initiative, co-led by India's NSA Ajit Doval and America's NSA Jake Sullivan, has been a cornerstone of the two countries' efforts to advance cooperation in key areas such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, semiconductors, and space exploration.
Over the last 4 years, we've joined hands to help halt a pandemic, to bring vaccines to the world. We've launched initiatives on jet engines, semiconductors, and clean energy. And in a few months' time, we'll come together to put an Indian astronaut in space. These are remarkable achievements, and we made them by harnessing the remarkable innovation of the American and Indian people.
NSA Sullivan also emphasized the critical role of India-US collaboration in maintaining peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, calling it crucial for addressing shared security challenges. This meeting followed External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's recent visit to Washington, D.C., where he met NSA Sullivan and also Congressman Michael Waltz, who is U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for the next National Security Advisor. As the Biden administration concludes its tenure, the visit reflects efforts to solidify key initiatives and also ensure a seamless transition for continued collaboration between the two countries. Bureau Report, DD India.
Europe now, and Austria is at a political crossroads after President Alexander von der Bellen handed far-right Freedom Party leader Herbert Kickl the responsibility of forming a new coalition government. This historic move comes after centrist parties failed to reach an agreement. Here's the latest.
Shortly after their meeting on Monday, Austrian President Alexander von der Bellen gave the green light to far-right Freedom Party leader Herbert Kickl to attempt forming the new ruling coalition.
Herr Kickl, Mr. Kickel has the confidence to find viable solutions within the framework of government negotiations, and he wants this responsibility. He asked him that explicitly. I have therefore instructed him to enter into talks with the OVP to form a federal government. Herbert Kickel will report to me on the progress of these talks on an ongoing basis.
Kickel's meeting with the president followed the collapse of coalition talks on Sunday between Austria's two biggest centrist parties. The discussions ended after the Liberal Neos party quit negotiations, leaving no viable path forward without the far-right Freedom Party. Meanwhile, around 500 protesters gathered outside Vienna's presidential palace, voicing strong opposition to the president's decision to task the far-right leader with forming a government.
Persecution of marginalized groups, mass deportations, cuts to social benefits, a return of a fascist state. We say that we have learned something from our history, but then at the same time, we elect a chancellor like Kickel and leave them in power. We have learned nothing from the past.
The move marks a turning point in Austria's political landscape, with the Freedom Party now at the center of efforts to form the next government. All eyes are on Herbert Kickel as he attempts to secure a coalition. Bureau Report, DD India.
North Korea launched a ballistic missile on Monday amid U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to South Korea. In response, South Korea also fired a ballistic missile into the sea, escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. Blinken condemned the missile launched by Pyongyang and called it another violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. Here's more in this report.
North Korea on Monday fired a ballistic missile to East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan, as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited South Korea. In response, South Korea also fired a ballistic missile into the sea in a show of force. This is Pyongyang's first ballistic missile launch in New Year that comes after its last test fire in November, which it claimed to be its most advanced and powerful solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. At a joint news conference, both Antony Blinken and his South Korean counterpart condemned the missile launch, and Washington's top diplomat called it another violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions.
We condemn the DPRK's missile launch just today, yet another violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions.
Japan, too, has strongly condemned North Korea's latest ballistic missile launch. Japanese Defense Minister General Nakatani said Pyongyang's repeated launches are a threat to the safety and security of Japan, the region, and the international community.
The series of actions by North Korea, including its repeated launches of ballistic missiles, are a threat to the safety and security of our nation, the region, and the international community. Such ballistic missile launches violate the relevant UN Security Council resolutions and are a serious issue for the safety of our people. Japan has lodged a stern protest against North Korea, and we strongly condemn such actions.
Antony Blinken, who is probably on his final trip to Asia and Europe as the top US diplomat, did not meet the impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, but he held talks with the acting president of South Korea, seeking to encourage policy stability in the crisis-driven country. Antony Blinken also met senior South Korean government officials, including National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-shik, to reaffirm the US-South Korea alliance. He also praised the democratic resilience of South Korea. Raghav Kumar Jha, reporting for DD India.
2 women and an off-duty cop were killed and at least 8 others were injured when terrorists opened fire on vehicles in northern West Bank on Monday. The attack, targeting a bus and 2 cars, took place in the Palestinian village of Al-Funduk, a key route for both Israelis and Palestinians. Israeli army has launched a manhunt for the gunmen and said to have imposed a cordon around all villages in the area to search for the suspects, who it believes have fled to a nearby Palestinian village. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Monday that his nation aims to finalize a ceasefire in Gaza and secure the release of hostages within the next 2 weeks. Blinken emphasized the importance of achieving this before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office on the 20th of this month.
we very much want to bring this over the finish line in the next 2 weeks, the time that we have remaining. And we will work every minute of every day of those 2 weeks to try to get that to happen. If we don't get it across the finish line in the next 2 weeks, I'm confident that it will get to completion at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. And when it does, it will be on the basis of the plan that President Biden put forward and that virtually the entire world supports.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday ordered a ban on offshore drilling across an immense area of coastal waters weeks before Donald Trump, in fact 2 weeks before Donald Trump takes office, with the aim to massively increase fossil fuel production. The White House said on Monday that Biden will use his authority to protect all federal waters off the east and west coasts, the eastern Gulf of Mexico and the portions of the northern Bering Sea in Alaska. The move is the latest in a string of last-minute climate policy actions by the Biden administration ahead of Trump's return to the White House, steps that Trump might find difficult to reverse. 4 young Kenyan men who disappeared last month in a spate of abductions targeting government critics were freed on Monday. The tough police response, which saw at least 60 people killed during the initial anti-government protests, has dampened unrest in recent months, with demonstrations thinly attended. The kidnappings have dominated Kenyan politics in recent weeks, with at least 6 young men disappearing over the Christmas holidays. Kenya has recorded 82 abduction cases since large-scale youth-led protests broke out in June last year, with 29 people still missing. Russian forces have made significant gains in eastern Ukraine, capturing the town of Kurakhove. Moscow's defense ministry says the advance will accelerate operations in the Donetsk region. The Russians also claim to have taken Dashenske. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces continue to engage Russian troops inside Kurakhove as fierce fighting rages on in the contested areas. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Politics heats up in the UK over the grooming gang scandal and the investigation cover-up. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates multiple rail projects boosting rail connectivity in Jammu.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, pressure is mounting on UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer as Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips rejects calls for a public inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham. Elon Musk's recent comments on X have sparked a heated debate, with many demanding accountability for the abuse of vulnerable children by grooming gangs. In response to the allegations, Starmer dismissed critics, accusing them of spreading misinformation.
Pressure is increasing on Prime Minister Keir Starmer after the Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips rejected calls for a public inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham. Starmer declined to comment on the allegations, stating, "Those spreading lies and misinformation are not focused on the victims. They are only interested in themselves."
Those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible, they're not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves. Those who are cheerleading Tommy Robinson, not interested in justice. They're supporting a man who went to prison for nearly collapsing a grooming case, a gang grooming case. These are people who are trying to get some kind of vicarious thrill from street violence that people like Tommy Robinson promote.
The grooming gangs refer to organized groups who systematically target and sexually exploit vulnerable individuals, primarily children and young adults, through manipulation and coordinated abuse. The debate sparked by Elon Musk on X has turned into a heated discussion on the UK grooming gang scandal. Musk, a close ally of US President-elect Donald Trump, last week backed calls for a national inquiry into the handling of cases of rape by men of Pakistani heritage of underage girls by the government's prosecution service, which Starmer previously ran. A 2014 inquiry found at least 1,400 children were subjected to sexual exploitation in Rotherham, Northern England, between 1997 and 2013. The Tesla CEO Elon Musk directly challenged current Prime Minister Keir Starmer's role in these cases, pointing to his tenure as the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, from 2008 to 2013. Author J.K. Rowling expressed outrage over the grooming gangs, criticizing the term grooming gangs and comparing it to calling knife attackers knife owners. She condemned the perpetrators' actions and raised concerns about potential police corruption in the Rotherham case, describing the details as horrific and the corruption allegations as nearly unbelievable. Former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss condemned the perpetrators and authorities who allowed the crimes to continue, stating that the cases of girls as young as 11 being abused shame our country. She called for both the perpetrators and the authorities who ignored the crimes to be held accountable. As calls for justice intensify, it remains unclear if the UK government will address the systemic failures that allowed grooming gangs to flourish. This comes at a time when Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing significant unpopularity, with his approval ratings lower than any other Prime Minister since the late 1970s. Rabindra Chauhan's report, DD India.
Now, at home, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated and laid the foundation stones of various railway projects through a video link on Monday. In a significant move to boost connectivity in Jammu and Kashmir, the PM inaugurated the new Jammu Railway Division. Prime Minister Modi also inaugurated the Charlapalli new terminal station in Telangana. Along with this, the PM laid the foundation stone of Raigada Railway Division building of East Coast Railway to improve connectivity in Odisha, Andhra Pradesh and nearby areas, adding to socio-economic development in these regions. During his address, the PM highlighted the progress of Indian Railways, emphasizing the nearing completion of the mission to fully electrify the railway network.
हमारा लक्ष्य है कि फर्स्ट स्टेशन से लेकर डेस्टिनेशन तक भारतीय रेल से यात्रा एक यादगार अनुभव बने। इसके लिए देश में 1300 से ज्यादा अमृत स्टेशनों का कायाकल्प भी हो रहा है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में रेल कनेक्टिविटी का भी अद्भुत विस्तार हुआ है। 2014 तक देश में सिर्फ 35% रेल लाइनों का इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन हुआ था। आज भारत रेल लाइनों के 100% इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन के करीब है।
And India's President Draupadi Murmu has addressed women representatives belonging to scheduled tribes from the Panchayati Raj institutions at Delhi's Rashtrapati Bhavan on Monday. Addressing the gathering, the President said that Panchayati Raj institutions have been the cornerstone of India's democracy, providing a platform for governance and community development at the grassroots level. She added that to strengthen women's participation in Panchayati Raj institutions, most states of India have increased the reservation limit to 50%.
पंचायती राज संस्थाएं हमारे लोकतंत्र की आधारशिला रही है। ये संस्थाएं जमीनी स्तर पर शासन और सामुदायिक विकास के लिए एक मंच प्रदान करती है। इन संस्थाओं में महिलाओं के लिए 1/3 सीटों के आरक्षण का प्रावधान किया गया है, जिससे उनकी भागीदारी सुनिश्चित हो सके।
At least 8 security personnel and a driver were killed after a police vehicle came under attack by Naxals in Kutru region of Chhattisgarh's Bijapur. The Naxals carried out an IED blast, blowing up the vehicle carrying the soldiers. The security personnel were returning from an operation when the incident took place.
2-3 दिनों से जिला बीजापुर, नारायणपुर और दंतेवाड़ा के सीमावर्ती इलाके में सुरक्षा बल द्वारा अभियान संचालित की जा रही थी। इस अभियान में टोटल अब तक 5 माओवादी की डेड बॉडी रिकवर की गई थी। हमारे एक जवान मुठभेड़ में उनका शहादत भी हुआ। तत्पश्चात अभियान के बाद सर्चिंग को पूर्ण करके सुरक्षा बल द्वारा वापस बेस कैंप आ रहे थे। इस दौरान जिला बीजापुर की बेदरे एवं कुट्टू के बीच में अम्बेली के पास माओवादी द्वारा लाए गए एक आईडी ब्लास्ट की चपेट में आने से हमारा एक वाहन आईडी के चपेट में आ गई थी। उसमें सवार हमारा 8 DRG दंतेवाड़ा के जवान का शहादत हो गई, तो उसके एक ड्राइवर का भी शहादत हो गई। कुल 9 का शहादत का भी जानकारी प्राप्त हो रहे थे। उस स्पॉट में भी रीइंफोर्समेंट टीम और अन्य जितना भी जो इवैक्यूएशन टीम पहुंच गए थे।
One of the largest steel producing countries, India aims to increase its domestic manufacturing. India's Minister of Steel and Heavy Industries, H.D. Kumaraswamy, launched PLI Scheme 1.1 for the steel industry and called for applications during an event in Delhi on Monday. Minister Kumaraswamy launched an application portal which shall be open till the 31st of this month. The concept of production-linked incentives was conceived during the global lockdowns of 2020, emphasizing the need to boost domestic manufacturing. Initially launched for 3 sectors, the PLI scheme was later extended to include steel in November 2020. An outbreak of human metapneumovirus HMPV in China has raised alarm globally. Several countries, including India, are monitoring the virus and its spread closely. While India on Monday confirmed its first 3 cases of HMPV, 2 in Karnataka's Bengaluru and 1 in Gujarat's Ahmedabad, all the cases have been detected in infants. The Indian Council of Medical Research is closely monitoring the situation. In view of the ongoing scenario, Union Health Minister J.P. Nadda issued a statement in which he said that the health system and surveillance networks of the country remain vigilant, ensuring the country is ready to respond promptly to any emerging health challenges. There is no reason to worry.
Health experts have clarified that HMPV virus is not a new virus. It was first identified in 2001 and it has been circulating in the entire world since many years. HMPV spreads through the air by way of respiration. This can affect persons of all age groups. The virus spreads more during the winter and the early spring months. On recent reports, the cases of HMPV in China, the Health Ministry, the Indian Council for Medical Research and the National Center for Disease Control are keeping a close watch on the situation in China as well as in the neighboring countries. WHO has taken cognizance of the situation and will share their report shortly with us. The country data for respiratory viruses available with Indian Council for Medical Research, ICMR, and the Integrated Disease Surveillance Program has also been reviewed and no surge in any of the common respiratory viral pathogens is observed in India. Joint Monitoring Group meeting was held under the chairmanship of Director General for Health Services on 4th of January 2025 to review the situation. The health systems and surveillance networks of the country remain vigilant, ensuring the country is ready to respond promptly to any emerging health challenges. There is no reason to worry.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world as well. The 18th edition of exercise Surya Kiran, a joint military exercise between India and Nepal, is underway in Nepal's Sarjandi. Scheduled to run until the 13th of this month, the exercise involves an infantry battalion each from India and the Nepalese army. The National Industrial Corridor Development Corporation has commenced a 3-day roadshow in the UAE on Monday. The initiative aims to strengthen industrial partnerships and explore successful infrastructure models to further India's industrial development. Algerian volunteers rescued injured goldfinches from a market near the capital and later released them in the wild. Widely revered in Algeria, goldfinches are famous for their colorful plumage and beautiful voice. The same reason has prompted illegal hunting amid growing calls for protecting the species, or poaching rather. The Appeals Court of Malaysia granted a bid by jailed former Premier Najib Razak on Monday to see a document he said should allow him to serve his sentence at home. In a 2-1 decision, the Court of Appeals granted Najib's appeal to overturn the lower court's dismissal of his previous request. Campaigning has begun in Ecuador for the upcoming general election scheduled in February this year. Luisa Gonzalez, the protege of former President Rafael Correa and presidential candidate for Ecuador's Revolución Ciudadana party, also began her campaign accompanied by supporters. Orthodox Christians marked Epiphany Day celebrations in Istanbul on Monday, diving into chilly 11 degrees Celsius waters of the Golden Horn. Hundreds attended the event celebrating Jesus' baptism. Vasilis Konstantinidis from Greece received the cross believed to bring good fortune for the year. NASA astronaut Don Petit captured some footage of brilliant northern lights from space. Petit, well known for his orbital astrophotography, was above eastern Canada when he orbited the Earth. And on to weather news. Now India's northern region has been under a spell of cold wave conditions. In Jammu and Kashmir, fresh snowfall has hit air traffic. All flights at the Srinagar International Airport have been cancelled. In Himachal Pradesh, the State Meteorological Department forecast heavy snowfall and rainfall till the 7th of January. Moderate rainfall brought down the temperature in the national capital as well. It has affected air and rail services.
Disturbance has already given a lot of thunderstorm activity over Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, and even hailstorms over Delhi. We are expecting hailstorm and thunderstorm activity to start today over Uttarakhand and northwest Uttar Pradesh.
A winter storm struck Washington, D.C. on Monday, leaving the White House grounds blanketed in snow, as captured in early morning video footage. The storm brought snow, ice and freezing temperatures across a wide stretch of the U.S. on Sunday. Winter weather warnings and advisories were issued for around 60 million people across more than a dozen states from Kansas to New Jersey. Northern China has been gripped by frigid weather, with some regions recording their lowest temperatures of the season. Hulunbuir, a city in Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, saw temperatures plunge to minus 40 degrees Celsius on Sunday. In Alongshan, the mercury dropped further to minus 44 degrees Celsius, marking the town's coldest temperature this winter. And still to come on DD NewsHour. We'll be speaking with our expert guest about what's next for Canada as its Prime Minister Justin Trudeau looks set to quit the ruling party's leadership. And Mahakumbh Mela website sees over 33 lakh hits as the event draws near.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at our top stories. Another far-right-led government set to emerge in Europe as Austrian President von der Bellen tasked Freedom Party's Herbert Kickl with forming a coalition government. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan meets with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and others in Delhi. The PM says he looks forward to building upon the momentum in Indo-US ties. All right, as we are on air, we have been hearing from Prime Minister Trudeau as well. He has talked about an intent to resign. Now, what does that mean? Let's go across to our expert guest. Professor Harshvardhan Pant joins us. He's Vice President, Observer Research Foundation. Good evening to you. Dr. Pant, what do you make of what Justin Trudeau is trying to do now? He's saying that he intends to quit, but he will still be around.
Well, I think he's got him trying to make the best of the circumstances that now he has created for himself. And I think particularly in the context of depleting support within the rank and file of his own party, and as his sort of global stature has fallen apart, this is a very bleak moment for a person who had risen significantly in Canadian politics as someone who was supposed to change the fortunes of Canada and of Canadians in a significant way. And I think what we have seen over the last 9 years that he has been in power is completely a symbolic performance, where on a number of fronts he seems to be failing, and he seems to be not able to garner any support from within the country as well as abroad. So I think it's a bleak moment for him. He's trying to make the most of it. I think the writing is on the wall. He has read it. He's basically saying that I'm ready to go, but a dignified exit is what he would want. And I think that's what he's going to tell the caucus members on Wednesday.
Right. Now, why do you think things have come to such a pass? Because when he started off, again, the party was in doldrums in 2013, and then he got it to a place where it could seize power through a simple majority. He had majority, and then the downhill journey began very quickly after that, and ever since it's just been rolling on further down and down.
Yes, I think it has been a classic case of media and his supporters and the liberal, I think, constituencies across the world reading much more into him than he was capable of delivering. And in some ways, when he had come to power, when he had risen as the most important face in Canadian politics, he was seen as someone who would do dramatic things. And unfortunately, he did not have a vision for Canada. And his politics was very, very ad hoc. His politics was, in some ways responding to every single day rather than carving out an overarching framework to both to respond to the nature of the moment, as well as to respond to the aspirations of the Canadians. And after COVID in particular, it had been a downhill journey for him, where he had been unable to make up his own mind as to where he wants to go. So he has plucked things out of air. He has tried to show that he can be a very dominant player globally by targeting countries like India. He has tried to showcase that he could negotiate with someone like Trump, and look what happened to that when he went to recently to Mar-a-Lago. So I think in some ways his politics, if you recall from the very beginning when he had come to India for the first time, with all that trappings of a Bollywood star, and he was changing costumes every day, seemed very infantile. And I think that's where perhaps the expectations that people had from him and what he delivered, that mismatch was something that is now has become just too much. And I don't think history would judge him that kindly because of the nature of problems that he has created for Canada under his watch. Not all of his own doing, but I think certainly as a leader he'll have to take onus of the problems. But I think by and large, by failing to respond to them in a way which I think at times leadership demands, and I think his leadership has been falling short of those expectations repeatedly.
Okay, just bear with me a second, because let me go across to my colleague Jessica Taneja, who was listening into that press conference that Justin Trudeau has addressed. Jessica, what are the key points that emerged? She's apparently said that he intends to step down, but not immediately, and even Parliament will not be able to convene for some time till almost the end of March.
That's correct, almost till end of March, and elections were due to be held in October earlier, Gautam, but all of those plans have now changed with Justin Trudeau with that press conference, much awaited. He now says he's stepping down as Prime Minister and he will wait till the next one is elected. So very important press interaction today, and a very different, one that too, where he says that it's over dinner that he told his kids about the decision to resign, with talking about all of the work that he's done in the last 9 years. But it's important to also understand what led to his resignation. While there was pressure and on him when there was, of course, not much support for him, not just within his own allies, but his own, cabinet ministers as well, including particularly of his deputy prime minister and finance minister, Chrystia Freeland. Now, this came at a point where she resigned at the time, right before announcing the fiscal budget, and instead she tendered a resignation and said that she could not continue with the economic policies that Justin Trudeau had been introducing quite recently.
Because Trudeau wanted to demote her.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that, Gautam.
I said that happened because Trudeau said that he wants to demote her, he wants to give her some other responsibility.
That's also correct, but also from the point of view on how things have built at this point, and reports suggesting on the fact that there were very important and controversial policies that Justin Trudeau had recently introduced, specifically talking about the two, where there was a 2-month tax holiday and the tax rebate of nearly $200, and those handouts were given to workers, was not taken well by Chrystia Freeland, who seemed to have tendered her resignation on those points. So that is what we know from the reports so far. And perhaps moving forward, there were many more things that the Justin Trudeau government was facing. It's not just how unpopular he was becoming, but also the cost of living crisis and the inflation, and perhaps many individuals not being able to afford electricity and housing becoming even more expensive. Certainly concerns that were not being addressed for a very long time by the Trudeau government, which was anyway unpopular.
Yes, let me bring in Professor Harshvardhan Pant again, because Justin Trudeau said that he will step down once his replacement is found, which will again take some time, and in that time even Parliament will not be able to convene before March, and that means a no confidence vote or a confidence vote cannot be sought before May. So it does seem that he's at the same time bought time for his party ahead of the elections, which are to be held at the latest in October, Professor Pant.
Yes, I think the numbers for the party are looking pretty bad at the moment, and the longer he stays, the more difficult it would be for them to sustain the seats. And I think that was one of the reasons why the MPs were under pressure and were asking him to go. But I think this whole process of finding an alternative, finding a leader of the party in the Prime Minister, that will take its own time, and he has I think carefully indicated that he's willing to hand over the baton to the next leader. But how that what happens to that process and what role he plays there would also be very interestingly watched, because he's of course not very popular across the board, but he retains a measure of support within his own party. So whether the successor would be someone who will be completely anti-Trudeau or someone who also resembles in some ways his policies, that would be very interesting to watch. But I think the wind is shifting against him and his policies, and we will certainly see anyone who comes to fill his shoes taking positions which will be strikingly different from his, because any association with him is today a political kiss of death for Canadian leaders. So I do think that it's a very precarious moment for the Liberals and for his party. But I think it's also an interesting moment in that sense for Canadian politics, because it would be evolving and it would be moving in a very different direction from here on.
Yes, it could be, considering especially the fact that you have an administration coming in just next door, which is saying that I'm going to put tariffs on every Canadian good of 25%, and more than 70% of Canadian exports go to the US. It's a biggest trading partner. So that's a huge sword hanging over every Canadian's head. And at that time, for Justin Trudeau to lose sort of a mandate of taking the country further, although still being in office, what kind of a limbo does that put Canada in with the US, with Donald Trump?
I think that's a very, very difficult situation, because you'd certainly need, with Mr. Trump in particular, you need a leader who has the confidence of his own people. And at this point, especially now going over into the next few months, if he continues, which is likely given the political process that will unfold in Canada, I think his ability to negotiate will be very weak, and we have already seen how Mr. Trump dealt with him when he went there. And so I do think that Mr. Trump's political favorite is the opposition, and certainly he is not in any mood to relent under the Liberal leadership. So I think the dynamic between Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Trump, which has been antagonistic, which has been very strange in particular, if you go by the last visit, I think is going to be even stranger now. And this is not good news for Canada. It's not good news for US-Canada relations, and in particular on the issue of tariffs and trade, which is likely to hurt every single Canadian. And I think a lot of the points that Jessica was mentioning, economy, cost of living, how do you make sure that employment, housing, all of them are interrelated in that sense, and it would be very difficult for the Canadian government to deal with them with a weak prime minister, with the prime minister that has basically said, I'm lame duck. And that is what the problem is going to be.
Well, we'll have to see what the opposition leader and the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, has to say about it as well. But let's listen to what Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau has said just a short while ago, while he announced that he intends to step down. Listen in.
I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
So there you have it. That's a word for now, and we are running out of time. So I'll have to thank you, Jessica, as well as Professor Pant, for the moment, and see what really emerges for Canada going forward, because he's clearly said that he's going to stick around till a new leader is found in his place, and that in itself sounds odd, that because until one really quits, how can one be replaced? But that's the way things stand at the moment in Canada. Now, Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal on Monday issued an arrest warrant against ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The warrant was also issued against 10 other people, including former Defence Advisor Major General Tariq Ahmed Siddiqui and former Inspector General of Police Benazir Ahmed. The warrant is in connection with 2 cases related to extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances during tenure of Awami League government during the last 15 years. The tribunal, led by Justice Muhammad Ghulam Murtaza Mazumdar, ordered the authorities to arrest and produce Sheikh Hasina and the others before it by the 12th of February. A 5-day Indian film festival kicked off in Colombo, Sri Lanka on Monday with a screening of Bollywood blockbuster 83. Organized by the High Commission of India in Colombo, the festival will run till the 10th of this month. Several popular films are scheduled to be premiered during the festival, including RRR, Reva, Vikram, among others. The festival showcases a rich mix of Indian films across genres including drama, action and historical epics. At the premiere, Sri Lanka's Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs, Sunil Kumara Gamage, highlighted the impact of Indian sport films on both sports and entertainment.
We have good collaboration with India and Sri Lanka, so we have to make good friendship with both countries. Especially, you all have produced many films related with sports, especially Lagan, Chak De India and Dangal also. I have watched those films. It's very interesting films. So I think with those sports films, you all have given many things to the film industry and entertainment industry and also to the sports.
Let's now take a look at some other stories coming in from around the country as well. India's Border Security Force organized a veterinary camp for livestock in Jammu and Kashmir's Budgam on Monday. The camp aimed to provide essential healthcare services and treatment for livestock. Preparations for the 18th Pravasi Bharati Divas are underway in Odisha's Bhubaneswar city. The theme for this year's PBD convention is Diaspora's Contribution to a Viksit Bharat. It's being organized in partnership with the state government of Odisha from the 8th to the 10th of January of this year. With a week left for the Mahakumbh Mela, over 33 lakh, that's 3.3 million people, visited the official website of the religious congregation. Authorities said that lakhs of people from India and other 183 countries, including the US, Britain, Canada, are visiting the website to get information about the Mahakumbh Mela 2025. The 82nd edition of the Golden Globe Awards, celebrating the best in film and television, concluded on Sunday. Films like The Brutalist and Emilia Perez took home the top honours. While many of the wins were expected, some came as a surprise. Diptanshu Kashyap brings us more.
The Spanish-language serial narco musical Emilia Perez took home 4 awards at the 82nd Golden Globe Awards, including Best Motion Picture in the musical or comedy category. Meanwhile, the period epic The Brutalist, set in the post-Holocaust era, won 3 awards: Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director and Best Actor for Adrien Brody.
I hope that this work stands to lift you up a bit and to give you a voice. And I'm so grateful. I will cherish this moment forever. Thank you.
The Indian production All We Imagine as Light received 2 nominations, including Best Director for Payal Kapadia, but lost to Brady Corbett for The Brutalist. Other notable winners in the film category included Sebastian Stan, Demi Moore, Zoe Saldana, Kieran Culkin and Fernanda Torres, who won Best Actress in a Drama.
This is a film that helps us to think how to survive in tough times like this.
In television, the Japanese historical epic Shogun claimed 4 Golden Globes, including Best Drama Series and Best Actor for Hiroyuki Sanada. Other winners in the TV categories included Jeremy Allen White, Jodie Foster, Jean Smart and Colin Farrell.
I'm so happy to be here with these great nominees.
The ceremony, hosted by comedian Nikki Glazer, took place at the Beverly Hilton in Beverly Hills, California. The evening's victories have heightened the chances of these film winners taking home an Academy Award at the 97th Oscars, set for March 3rd this year. Diptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
Time now for some sporting updates. Well, India's HS Pranoy will return to court for the first time since the Paris Olympics at the Malaysia Open Badminton Tournament, which begins in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. Pranoy has not been in action since his exit at the hands of compatriot Lakshya Sen at the Paris Olympics. Sen also competes in the tournament. The women's singles event will see Akarshi Kashyap, Anupama Upadhyay and Malvika Bansod lead India's charge in the absence of PV Sindhu. India's sole representative in the men's doubles event is the pairing of Chirag Shetty and Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy. Meanwhile, India's challenge in the women's doubles event will be spearheaded by Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand, who head into the tournament after winning the Syed Modi International Tournament. India's veteran cricketers Shikhar Dhawan, Harbhajan Singh and Suresh Raina are set to play in Legend 90 League, which is set for launch in February. The league will reunite cricket legends from around the globe and will be played in 90 balls per side format. The league is set to feature 7 teams. Veteran players like Dhawan, Chris Gayle, Dwayne Bravo and Harbhajan Singh will lead their respective teams. The league will also feature players like Moeen Ali and Martin Guptill, among others. South Africa eased to a 10-wicket victory against Pakistan in the second test in Cape Town on Monday to secure a 2-0 series win. South Africa made light work of a modest target of 58 runs to claim victory inside 4 days of the second and final test. Pakistan had held up the home side's victory charge with a second innings score of 478 after they were asked to follow on. Their effort was led by captain Shan Masood, who scored 145. But South Africa chipped away at the wickets. They have now won their last 7 tests in a row, their second best ever run of victories behind a 9-game winning streak between 2002 and 2003. The Indian women's cricket team announced their squad for the one-day international series against Ireland. Smriti Mandhana will lead the 15-member squad in the 3 ODI matches starting the 10th of January in Rajkot. Regular captain Harmanpreet Kaur and star pacer Renuka Singh Thakur have been rested. Deepti Sharma has been named vice-captain. Indian team enter this series on the back of a thumping series victory against the West Indies in ODIs and T20Is. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India NewsHour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can download the app right away by screening that QR code there on the screen. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India NewsHour.